it's my pleasure to invite Reverend Mary Mitchell up to the podium to present today's lesson on Don't Limit Yourself.
Good morning. Don't limit yourself. Sounds like someone trying to tell you, don't limit yourself. Actually, it's a chapter in the book that we're using this month, A New Design for Living by Dr. Ernest Holmes. And he suggests that if we want to really expand our life, more, better, different, expand it in any way, that we really have to evaluate ourselves. Now, this isn't an ego evaluation. It's an evaluation of our connection with our spiritual nature, a connection of how we are in this spiritual world. Are we really in touch with the awe and wonder of everything that's around us? So that's the kind of evaluation he invites us to do if we want to expand or grow. Because to enhance our life experience, it calls for a deeper reverence of what's really going on here, a deeper reverence for the God that created us, each one of us as individual beings, because our bodies are more important than we think. We really are more important than we think. It's really humbling to think that infinite intelligence would have created me and you in these bodies, in these times. The reason we're here is because we can achieve whatever we want in these times. Not 50 years ago or 100 years ago or 100 years in the future, but in these times. This is the exciting part, and it's very humbling to me. Because the truth is, we can't go beyond the accepted image we have of ourselves. We really can't. If my accepted image is all I can do is work at this level, that's the truth, because we believe it. So being in connection with the awe and wonder of the universe and realizing how incredibly important we are to this life, in this community, in this time, allows us to see that there's greater potential here than we probably have been thinking. You know, our mind is creativity. Our mind is the creative aspect of who we are. Just like God's mind was so creative, it created you. For instance, it created Patty to create these beautiful flowers this morning. She has a real creative talent when it comes to that. Each one of us has that part where we're really creative, but we also have that part that we've been sitting on. We've just been sitting on it. And it's time to, get it in gear here. This is 2013. It was 2010, just a couple months ago. So it's time, if we're going to do it, it's time. It's time to get with the program. I'm always impressed with the books that Dr. Holmes reads. And in this book, The New Design for Living, he has all these quotes by people I never heard of. And I thought, he must have read them. So I like to go on Google and find out who these people are. This one person is named Henry Frederick Amiel, A-M-I-E-L. I had never heard of him before, so I Googled him, and Google, of course, popped him right up. And he was a professor of moral philosophy in Geneva in the middle of the 1800s. Now, why would Ernest Holmes read about him? So I looked at his history, and this Henry Frederick Amiel lost his parents very early in life, and he lived in Europe at the time. And so he started traveling, and he traveled all over Europe. Can you imagine? In the mid-1800s? But he sought out all the intellectual minds of the time, and he made good friends with them. It wasn't the aristocracy. He was going for the intelligent people, the philosophers, the people who had their pulse on humanity and what it's all about. So he became very good friends with all these people, and for 30 years, every day, he wrote down everything he learned from them. Now that's exciting to me. And he wrote it all down, and when he died, one of his friends put it together in a book, and the book is called The Journal in Time. I just ordered it through Amazon because I'm very excited about reading it. And that is what made him famous, that book. He wasn't famous before he died, but that book made him famous after he died. So here's the quote that Ernest Holmes used, and it may be a little much, but we'll get through it. "He floats with the current who does not guide himself according to higher principles, who has no ideals, no convictions. Such a man is a mere article of furniture, a thing moved instead of living and being moved, an echo, not a voice. The man who has no inner life is the slave of his surroundings, as the barometer is the obedient servant of the air at rest, and the weathercock, the humble servant of the air in motion." Now that's a lot, so we're going to piece this out a little bit so you really grasp the amazing insight he has here. The person who isn't guided by higher principles or convictions. Now, we talk about principles here, but they're principles of life. What he's talking about is principles of the standards of good behavior, what was good behavior at the time. And convictions means a strong belief in values and beliefs, strong beliefs and values. So he says the person who isn't guided by higher principles and convictions flows with the current, kind of meanders wherever the river of life takes them. But the person who isn't guided by higher principles or convictions is a mere article of furniture, a thing moved instead of being moved. Think of your couch. How long has it been sitting in that one spot? The person who isn't guided by higher principles or convictions is an echo, not a voice. Now that really touched me. An echo, not a voice. A person who has no inner life is an obedient servant. Well, he's being a little insulting, actually. And then he uses two examples, a barometer. Now, you might have one at home. We have one in the bathroom, and it always just sits there, and it just reacts to the pressure, the air pressure. It doesn't do anything. It just reacts to the air pressure. So it's like a piece of furniture. It just reacts. And then he talks about the weathercock, which is really a weather vane that does nothing until the wind blows it. So listen to this again. He floats with the current who does not guide himself according to higher principles, who has no ideal, no convictions. Such a man is just a mere article of furniture, a thing moved instead of a living and moving being, an echo, not a voice. The man who has no inner life is the slave of his surroundings, as the barometer is the obedient service of the air at rest, and the weathercock the humble servant of the air in motion. So I'm very excited about reading his book. If this is anything like what he has written down from the intellectuals in the mid-1800s. We are intelligent beings. We have an intelligent mind, obviously, or you wouldn't be here. But we have it, an infinite mind acted with purpose in creating you. And it's like, okay, come on. I created you to be intelligent. Let's get on with doing intelligent things. So if you feel stuck in any area of life, spirit, the soul, the intuitive wisdom there is waiting to help you, push you a little bit. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You can be more creative in every area of your life. And no matter how often I hear that, I'm just in awe of that. You know, so often society says, well, you should be retired, don't do anything. And I know a lot of people like that, and they seem very happy. But there's something every morning that pushes me. Wait a minute, you've got something to write down. You've got another book in you. You've got another talk in you. So it's very exciting in this teaching to realize being pushed is spirit in action. Dr. Raymond Charles Barker was one of Dr. Holmes' most famous ministers. And he called the creative part of our nature the intelligence factor. Because he said, you know, anything that you're worrying about is unintelligent. Unintelligent. I don't want to be called unintelligent. But when we worry, we put a negative aspect of life in motion that's going to show up. When we worry and worry, we are putting the intelligence into unintelligence. And we'll reap what we sow. And so an experience of unintelligence is focusing on something we're worrying about, and I invite you to go home and write down whatever you've been worrying about. And then really look at it and say, do I want the results of this worry in my life? Do I want to experience the result of this worry? Because you will. And so then look at that word, look at that worry, and say in mind, I'm done with this one. I'm totally done with this one. Tear that piece of paper up and let it go. Get it out of your mind. Replace it with something positive. The other day, David Encore, he's Mr. Karaoke. You've probably heard him doing karaoke here or at parties and stuff. He shared with me an experience he had lately, and I had asked him if I could share it with you. He moved to Costa Rica. Well, that was his goal. Load up his car with his dog, and we're driving to Costa Rica. There was a poster on the wall. They wanted to sell his karaoke equipment. Well, nobody bought it, and in the end, that's okay. But so he loads up his dog, and everybody said, David, it's dangerous in Mexico. It is so dangerous. Don't even drive through Mexico alone. And he's going to drive to Costa Rica. So the minute he hit the Mexican border, he's worried. He's so worried, he had a video camera on his little rear view mirror so he could video everything that was going to happen. He was so worried. He's going to get it on tape. And he's just paranoid the whole time driving through Mexico. But everybody he met was friendly. He had no trouble, none at all. It was wonderful, it was beautiful. In fact, in his video that's on his Facebook page, it's called The Donkey in the Tunnel, and he's driving along, and he goes through this tunnel in the middle of a mountain, and there's a donkey walking through the tunnel. So it was hilarious, too. But he was so paranoid, oh my gosh, Mexico, bad things are going to happen, and nothing bad happened. But the minute he hit the Nicaraguan border, he was robbed. He just got over the border. And it was so scary to him. He sold his car, and he met some wonderful people, because now the fear was gone. Okay, it's done. You know, what I anticipated didn't happen in Mexico. What a great place, but it happened in Nicaragua. So now the fear is gone, because what I anticipated happening happened. And then he met some wonderful people who helped him sell his car, who helped him get airplane tickets for him and his dog to fly home. So he's home. And he's just a changed person, totally changed. Now he realizes the girlfriend that he had is the love of his life, his soulmate. And he's just really, really happy. And so when you see him sometime, ask him some of the lessons he learned, because he learned a lot. So we were talking about it, and we started laughing about putting intention into our mind. For a couple days, he's in total paranoia and fear driving through Mexico. But nothing happened. But that energy built and built and built. And once he was out of Mexico, he was going, oh my God, the bad guys are here in Nicaragua. So it's an interesting thing when we have pent-up negative intention in our life. Well, right now it's springtime. And in spring, we like to plant flowers. And I'm here to ask you this morning, how many of you plant weeds? How many? There's got to be a few. Anybody plant weeds in their garden? Not intentionally. We plant flowers. And why do we do that? We want to see beauty in our yard. We want to smell the flowers, roses. Oh my gosh, the aroma of some of these flowers. And some of them have such intricate patterns. If you stare at it, you're almost looking at a mandala of color and pattern. But if we don't weed our flower garden, weeds tend to blow in. So it's important to weed the garden. Well, our thoughts are seeds. If you didn't know it already, our thoughts are seeds. And I invite you to think about what you've been planting this spring. You may not have planted anything. And if you haven't planted any seeds in your mind of what you really want, the weeds are just going to show up. They're just blowing around in the wind. And they will settle in your garden of life. You know, I don't like to take potluck. I don't like to take whatever just comes along. I like to set an intention, and maybe it doesn't show up that way, or plant flowers and make sure the weeds are taken care of. But it's important to me not to take potluck. I see enough of that in the world. So we're ready to prepare a garden of weeds. A garden. Don't put that on TV, please. No, we're ready to plant a garden of flowers and get rid of the weeds. And what are the weeds? Those are the mental ruts that I mentioned in the meditation. The mental ruts we're in. Now, a mental rut, I think of driving down an old logging road where your tires go, it's just a deep rut, and the bottom of the car may be bouncing along the center, but there are deep ruts because people have driven over that road and over it in the same place. We tend to do the same thing. In some areas of our life, we have ruts, and they're comfortable. They're really comfortable. So in the spring, it's a good time to think, what are the mental ruts that I'm in? Maybe it's what we're doing every day, our pattern of every day, what we do when we get up and have breakfast, and the pattern of life. It's time to interrupt those. Just kind of experiment. Drive to church on a different road. Take a different path. Go to Mount Shasta a back way. We get in mental ruts. And the Spirit of God, who created you with the infinite capacity to do whatever you want, is saying, come on, guys, let's have an adventure. Get out of those mental ruts. You know, the mental rut could be, well, it's a depressed economy, a depressed job market, a depressed financial system, and we keep thinking of those, and we're shocked when we get depressed. We're really shocked. Why am I depressed? Well, good grief, come and talk to me, I'll tell you. We'll talk about it just a little bit. What mental ruts are really there? Like Dave's mental rut of danger in Mexico. So interesting. So these are areas where you're limiting yourself. And if you can write them down and look at them and just take them out of your mind and burn them up, tear them up, get rid of them, shred them if needed, it will help a lot. Now this morning after the service, I'll be in the back and I have some Science of Mind fortune cookies for you. They're little sayings by Dr. Barker, because Dr. Barker was an amazing person. He was in your face a lot. He didn't give you much slack. He was just in your face telling you the way it really, truly is. So I've typed them up and I've got them on little papers and you can take some home with you. And so I invite you to repeat after me. This is a Barkerism. I am an open channel for bigger ideas. I am the means by which heaven is revealed on earth. The mind of God is a well that never runs dry. Now, did you feel anything there like, oh, I don't think so? That's the mental rut. That's the place that we're talking about. The world today needs your bigger ideas. It really does. There are so many problems. There are so many issues in the world. It needs you. It needs your thoughts. It needs your prayers. It needs that energy going out from you that is positive and thinking bigger than the issue at hand. Because our thoughts are things. That is what creates our life. Now, there's part of this that I'm still having trouble with. I don't text. I've never texted. I'm getting older. All the grandchildren are texting. And the communication gap is starting to widen. Because I'm still a phone person. Now, I don't know what your idea of a phone is, but 20 years ago, it was a big bag phone that took up half the front seat of your car. And now they're just so tiny and little, and you can take phenomenal photos with them and do movies, and it's just phenomenal. But the texting part, it's like, I don't get it. And I'm talking to myself here. This is a lesson for me this morning. If I want to be more relevant in our grandchildren's lives, I need to learn how to do that. And I know some grandparents who have done that, and they're really happy because they can communicate back and forth. Well, that is a bigger idea of my life. My cell phone in my purse has been dead for 2 weeks. I haven't plugged it in. I got to get with the program here, and I invite you to do that too. It's important to keep our skills up with the pace of change these days. And as we get older, we think, thank God I don't need to do that. No, you really do. Because it's going to speed up even faster and faster and faster. Because most of us are going to live to be 100. What's that going to be like? They said on Time Magazine a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was National Geographic, this baby born today is going to live to be 120. What's that going to be like? It's important to stay up with the creativity that's on this planet that was created by God, that has an intelligence factor about it, that we can tap into anytime we feel like it, and pick out the ruts we're in or the flowers we're going to plant. Now, I've occasionally mentioned our grandson, Nick, who lives in Alaska. I was thinking a lot about him this week because he's not living up to his stepmom's expectations at this point. He's 16, you know. And every once in a while, I'll put a little note on his Facebook page. Never hear back from him, you know, it's grandma. But I always think about him. And so I came across this book that I purchased, and I thought it might be helpful. It's called Don't Worry. It's for teenagers. Don't worry, it gets worse. This is a 20-something's mostly failed attempt at adulthood, and it is hysterical. It is just hysterical. So I thought, well, I'll send that to him and help him see that, you know, becoming an adult is not anything to kind of brush off lightly. But she gives a lot of advice in here, mainly from bad experiences. So she said at this one point in the book, she's totally broke. And so she's trying to tell people just heading into adulthood how to save money. And she said, one option is to live with your parents, which is a smart savings technique if you can handle long-winded conversations about what is this thing called Twitter and how does it work. If you're in an apartment, you don't need to pay your electric bill except every 4 months, because finally they will call you or notify you that your electricity is going to be turned off. And then the pain begins because you have to call them and hang online for 2 hours listening to someone tell you how to save your energy, and it's not worth it. You can avoid going to the laundromat to save money, but at some point your towels all smell like mold, and then you have to go out and buy new ones. It's not worth it. Stop drinking coffee to save money. Just use good old-fashioned fear of the unknown to keep you awake. It's really good information for young people because she's been through it all, and in these slight ways she's telling these young people it's not really worth doing it the hard way. There are easier ways to do it. But it can be overwhelming for teens when they become adults and they're still trying to figure out what all that means. But Science of Mind offers a lot of encouragement to younger people, because we are pure intelligence, always acting intelligently. Can you say that with me? I am pure intelligence, always acting intelligently. There you are. Isn't that a great byline? Who are you? I am pure intelligence, always acting intelligently. It's not ego, it's who you are. It's who God made you to be. So in Dr. Barker's book, The Power of Decision, I hope you get to read it sometime because it talks about every aspect of life. And I wanted to end with this quote. Each one of us is a vital participant in the universe. Intelligence created each of us to live in these times because we are equipped to live in these times. We are the result of our past decisions. We will become the result of our present decisions. Decide on me on the side of greatness, the side of greatness. So let's embed that in our spiritual mind treatment. There is only one infinite intelligence going on here that has created you and me and the whole universe in a field of energy that we find total unity. Unity with each other, with the sun, the moon, the sky, the stars, the flowers. There is an energy permeating everything and everyone. It's all one. And yet, as we are individuals expressing our creative intelligence, we are urged and pushed a little bit by Spirit to express it in new ways, to find the spark of our divinity every day, to do something a little better, different, something to spark our creative nature. Spirit is constantly talking to us, encouraging us supporting us if we're afraid of driving through Mexico, supporting us when we plant flowers, supporting us when we weed out weeds. We're always supported. So in this knowing, I am so grateful. Our lives are just charged full of the energy of the universe. I accept this, and I am in awe of how it unfolds in my life and your life from this day forward. It is beautiful. It is expansive. And it is good. And so it is.